الآن يمكنكم المشاركة في مبادرة الأيام الرقمية تحت شعار انطلق بقوة مع جوجل، والتي يتناول فيها خبراء جوجل عناوين جديدة أسبوعيا مثل السحابيات، مهارات من جوجل، أندرويد، فلتر، ذكاء الآلة، فايربيس، ديزاين ثينكينج، مقسمة إلى دورات وورشات عمل يومية بالإضافة إلى مسابقات أسبوعية. شاهد الأيام الرقمية مباشرة على اليوتيوب وشارك رأيك وأسئلتك مع خبراء جوجل، واحصل على شهادة حضور في كل محاضرة تشترك فيها. هذا وأكثر من الأحد إلى الخميس ابتداء من الساعة 9 بتوقيت دبي عبر الرابط المبين youtube.com/GDG-MENA.
Hi, my name is Jad Sarkis, and I'm an Apps Growth Manager from Google Dublin. And today I'm going to discuss app marketing to acquire valuable users for your app. The app space, as everyone has seen during 2020, has grown significantly and has really surpassed expectations for everyone in the industry in terms of growth, app spend, and overall success. However, there are many challenges that also started up within the space due to this excess amount of usage and acquisition. And therefore, it was becoming more and more challenging to actually acquire valuable users and to really maintain the LTV and ROI that app developers used to have. So today I'm going to discuss a bit more how the strategies work and what we can do from a Google perspective using Google tools in order to make the best out of our campaigns and to solidify our position within the landscape and navigate the complexities and basically use the best practices to achieve this success. So what's on the agenda today? We're going to start with a 2020 overview, get some insights and some interesting facts about what has really happened within the space, and understand basically what really changed and how we're going to react to that. Second, we're going to discuss what valuable users are, who are they basically, and how do you get them? And then some best practices for campaign setup, as this will be really crucial in order to really capture the opportunity. And in the end, we're going to understand also some tips and tricks to really make the best of the organic growth through how we can stand out on Google Play. So for a 2020 overview, we're going to just talk about first the breakout apps of 2020. What do we mean by breakout apps? It's basically those apps which really marked significant change and showed the potential that apps can have within 2020 through the year-on-year growth and global time spent on them. We have three main categories that really stand out. First of all, business. Second of all, video streaming. And third, gaming. And usually we classify them as either non-gaming or gaming. So within non-gaming, we would refer to Zoom, Google Meet, TikTok, and Disney Plus as the ones that broke into the top charts with regards to the strongest year-over-year growth. As for gaming, games that are probably relevant to a lot of you, such as Among Us, My Talking Tom Friends, Roblox, and Call of Duty Mobile, these saw the most success usually in terms of top gaming charts during 2020. Now, with regards to actual spend, there's been $112 billion in spend during 2020 on apps, as well as 140 billion new downloads, which just speaks to the sheer scale and potential that apps have and that what we can really capture from this opportunity. However, there are some challenges that come with this huge scale, and this is why we need to really make sure we're set up for success. You can see here that there's a 30% increase across Google spend for the Play Store as well as the App Store spend, and time spent varies around 30% for Google Play, meanwhile 12% for the App Store. Both significant numbers that really speak to the space and where it's really going. So what do we actually mean when we're talking about valuable users? It's kind of a no-brainer. We usually say purchasers in your app, subscribers, or deeply engaged users. And when we say deeply engaged users, it's anyone who's going to likely take an action in the app that's very relevant and that's going to actually be monetizable or drive certain engagement and retention, which would be towards your metrics in a positive way. So what does the actual split look like? 80% of users and 20%, usually is on average, would constitute the revenue and the just normal engagement. So 20% of users are actually the ones generating revenue, And accordingly, this speaks a lot to show how the very small chunk of people that are in your app are actually the ones who are going to drive your growth. And it's crucial to capture those in specific. And especially when we have more than 6,000 apps that get released every day on Google Play, it becomes even more complex and even harder to capture these users when there's a lot of other apps competing for their attention and outbidding as much as possible to get these auctions and to try to capture the attention of these users and their engagement. So just before I jump to the next slide, the important thing that we need to recognize here is that the only way to navigate this complexity and to make sure that we stand out within the app space is to make sure that we have a data-backed mobile strategy. We usually used to approach this with a normal mobile strategy and just set up campaigns, try to get users, have the right creatives, make sure we have the right targeting, but it's becoming ever more complex, and we really need data to be able to predict and model the potential future spenders and to really make sure that we have a granular read on the whole user journey. So what does that look like in practice? What does data-backed mobile strategy really look like? It's a development setup with a complementary attribution solution. What does that mean? It means you can keep the existing AAPs that you use within Google Ads, but you need to make sure you add Firebase. Firebase can be added in complement to any AAP you have, and it wouldn't change anything. So there is no change in attribution required. Google Analytics can provide exclusive advertising and measurement benefits and will act as a complementary solution to your AAP. This will help you leverage your conversions and continue to rely on your third-party AAPs without any changes. It's also a great place to generate these reliable data and insights, as well as rich user behavior analysis, which you can couple together in order to be able to create these signals and insights that can be turned into marketing actions and targeting specifications for your Google Ads campaigns. And this is really the magic that happens here, is that this is the only way to model conversions moving forward. We don't have targeting options. The way it actually works is through behavioral targeting, through these insights that get generated from user behavior and this rich behavior analysis. So once that's in place, you'll notice a big difference in how you ramp up within your campaigns. If you had done a campaign without Firebase, you'd be able to ramp up to a certain extent. But once you have actually the SDK and you're converting there, you're going to have faster ramp ups and larger scale as time goes by. So that's what you want to do. You want to drive higher steady state returns with better models learning on bigger data. And that's really the model that we kind of advise for all our clients, and that's been getting the most success. But don't just take our word for it. Look at the actual case studies that we have. This is a language app, Babbel. I'm sure a lot of you have actually used Babbel within the pandemic for learning a new language. I sure did. And personally, I believe they have a great value proposition. And when they use Firebase on their end, their testimony was they actually found it not only delivering great results, but also it opened up a lot of opportunities for them in terms of accelerating their growth through using more betas, which is something our direct clients have access to when they use Firebase. So there's huge upsides to using Firebase when you work with us directly and you implement this solution. And apart from that, when the results are shown, they just simply talk for themselves, like 72% boost in signups and a 7% decrease in cost per signup. Those are results that speak for themselves and show how actually powerful Firebase is in driving these results. So we talked about Firebase, but how do we put this into context? How does Firebase work for app campaigns in practice? And app campaigns, how are they related to Google? So maybe some of the viewers know this, as this is potentially some like you are existing developers, but for new developers or people who are watching this video for the first time, UAC is Google's product for app marketing. It combines all our platforms in one place so that you can serve your ads in a one-stop shop solution and kind of put them all over our platforms through just a few clicks. So once you see an ad on YouTube, on Google Search, Play Store, GDN, or any of our other platforms, that ad potentially came from UAC if it's an app ad. And I'll just go through the presentation so you can understand how it really looks like. The way it works is it actually combines conversion data that we got from Firebase, as well as Google Play and third-party app attribution platforms, and combines this within the smart algorithm as well as the creatives and bids and budgets that you set in order to model the best possible placements for your ad. It will automatically group the creatives together based on the relevance and how they coincide together. And based on the bids and budgets you have, it will be uncapped or capped and will allow you to explore as many auctions as possible through YouTube, GDN, Play, or search. And what that results in is having your ads reach the users in the right mindset, whether they are searching on the Play Store, discovering in Play clusters, watching a video on YouTube, or browsing on YouTube, for example. So you'll reach the user in a timely manner whenever it's right, in the right time, in the right way. Moreover, you'll also be able to reach them while they're searching on Google search, engaging within other apps through our AdMob mediation platform, and when they're surfing through the web. And in the end, through reading emails on Gmail. So we're reaching the user whenever they are in the right time and the right moment of intent based on user signals that we've accumulated through Firebase and by packaging the conversions and events that we deem as valuable and important. And based on the budgets and creatives you have, it will combine all of this information to automatically serve these ads in an automated manner. So, best practices for campaign setup. So before we continue, let's think about campaign setup. Once we have all these best practices in place, we've already discussed, maybe just to recap, Firebase, creatives, and basically bids and budgets. Those are really our best practices. But how do we really put them into practice? As we said, we've simplified this around three pillars. These images, bids, and conversion event values, which basically come from Firebase. However, we want to really focus on what we can control in terms of success, and that's creatives. Because once you set up Firebase, it's just a one-time setup to make sure everything we have solid foundations. But once we want to really scale and refresh and adapt and iterate, a good creative is what's good for business. And third parties shown in this slide actually attest to this and show us the actual value and increased ROI of an effective creative. So how do we actually maximize the inventory and we reach users via an optimal creative asset mix? So in order to really make sure you cap all your placements and try to reach all possible users at any point in time, you need to make sure you have at least 4 text lines and 4 descriptions. So that's actually a total of 8. You have also an image 20, and you have 20 HTML5 assets potentially and 20 videos. However, we can also use ad groups, which can package all of these elements within one ad group. But you can have also up to 20 ad groups. Now, how do we measure ad strength though? Because once you have these ads, you want to make sure that you're serving in the best possible way. And the way we measure this best possible way is through ad relevance and ad strength. The same way on search, where you can potentially check the ad score for relevance and ranking. In UAC, the way that works is through ad strength, and you're graded from incomplete, poor, average, good, and excellent. And the criteria for that is as follows. I would, of course, advise for the excellent one, where you should have at least 5 headlines, 5 description lines, at least 1 landscape image, and 7 landscape videos with 3 portrait videos and 2 square videos. When you have all of this combination, it allows you to gain precedence over other competitors in how you're actually serving your ads, and it will give you precedence and a better ad relevance score, and you'll eventually serve more ads to your users, which will be more profitable moving forward. So when we talk about video, YouTube is the perfect place to earn attention because viewers are 1.8 times more likely to pay attention there versus social media. Why is that? Because we have 95% ad viewability and ad audibility. And that means people are there and they're ready to be attentive, and they're likely to consider your brand or product much higher than on other channels. Now, when you want to design a video, we usually advise these 3 sizes, which usually fit on most of our platforms and ad placements. So to ensure that you make the best out of these ad placements, make sure to have a landscape video, portrait video, and square. And as you see, these align with the ad strength model that we've shown previously, as that model will technically drive our success and will create the ad relevance that's good for you. And with these different sizes, you'll be able to serve on YouTube, display, and AdMob. Now, when we talk about images, we usually advise these different sets of images, but at the end, the most important one would be the 1200 by 628. Why? Because it could be up to 1 megabyte in size versus all the other images that are usually 150 kilobytes. And basically 150 kilobytes basically is usually, as in a no-brainer, is less than 1 megabyte in quality and can show less of the value of your brand and showcase the quality that you can show in that same image. So of course, please focus on the landscape image to make the best out of the campaigns. Now, for text ideas, this is really relevant. It's really subjective to each advertiser, and we can't really speak to what works for everyone. However, we did define a few generic molds, so to say, of how you can kind of generate text that's relevant for your users. Make sure one text at least is an introduction about your brand or game. The second one should be an attention grabber. That could be a question that would pose about a problem that you're solving. Benefit statement by positioning how you are solving the problem of a user. And then there's the call to action, which is what you'll use to actually drive action towards downloading your app or taking any necessary action that would drive results for your app in general, or engagement, maybe visiting your landing page through where they can sign up and then come back to your app. Now that we've shown you the creatives with regards to best practices, let's look at bidding mechanisms that basically show us the different ways we can channel and make the best out of UAC. So UAC allows you to optimize for volume or quality, or even both. And what we mean by volume versus quality is that you can either generate a lot of installs in one go, which is our mass solution for like when you want to launch newly and you need to get a mass volume of users. So you'd go for UAC installs, or installs advanced, which targets mid-funnel events such as sign up or early stage events in the app that are close to the install stage. Now, when we talk about quality, this is where the valuable users lie and the kind of the core of what we're trying to deliver in this presentation. UAC for actions is when you set a CPA model to acquire users at a certain price, which you know would be profitable for you if they take an action as a payment in your app. And usually the optimal model is to combine both these strategies so you can drive growth and value within the app as you go. So what that product mix looks like is basically having AC max conversions or installs, which is our install-based solution, with a proposed duration of 2 weeks, and then an AC action purchase campaign, basically. So it's AC actions, the CPA model, for 4 weeks after that. This product mix will allow you to be able to generate enough installs in the first place, get the traction and usage volume that you need, and then generate potentially some data from these installs, which will serve as data to be able to ramp up the campaign for AC actions. AC meaning the app campaign for actions and purchases. So, and based on the initial launch performance, you'll be able to shift the budget and move it around AC actions or back to installs based on what's working well. Now, this is something a lot of advertisers ask about, and it's something we face as a challenge in just managing the expectations around how the solution works. And it's basically the CPA model and how it stabilizes in terms of price. So actual CPA is always much, much higher in the beginning, up to an extent that could be sometimes scary for some of my clients, as they would say. But however, it's totally normal. Like you potentially start, for example, in fintech at an $80 CPA. However, it will ramp down to much less than that as time goes in the learning curve. And this is an essential step we need to go through so that we can teach the machine to really understand the user behavior and test all possible options so that it can ramp down and understand what's the price that it can get a valuable user at, and create automated similar audiences for that, and eventually get them at a cheaper price. So the target CPA will ramp down to fair value with time. Usually that's 2 to 4 weeks. Ideally, you'd have it by the second week, but we usually allow up to a month just to make sure that we get the best possible CPA and maximize all auctions to really and build automated similar audiences to get you the best potential outcome. So to start up and down, it'll fluctuate, and then it'll stabilize eventually. And the more information it gets, the faster it learns, meaning the more you're able to drive usage and actual learnings for the campaign, the better it can build automated similar audiences in the background and use those to really ramp up the campaign. Now, when we talk about this, it also goes without saying that the more you spend, the more you're going to unlock auctions and more valuable users, which is the case, and that's what's shown in this graph here. So what we notice here is that with the CPA bid, as it increases, you're getting more available inventory, and you're also accessing different channels that we usually serve our ads on. When you're bidding at a low CPA, you're going to be able to only access potentially some YouTube auctions, Google search, and GDN network, and Google search. But you won't be able to access, for example, the Play Store listings. Meanwhile, if you increase your bid a bit more, you'll get a bigger share of the pie across all networks. And if you even go higher with the CPA, you'll unlock a much bigger share of certain networks and also much more available inventory across them. And you'll be able to get those paying users and valuable users. So the secret to getting valuable users is actually to bid high in the beginning, so you can really unlock those auctions and outbid competitors for those auctions and learnings. And in order to do that, you need to make sure you get 100 or more installs per day, or potentially 20 in-app events per day for the machine learning algorithm to learn and optimize effectively. And no changes for the bids or budgets should happen before those 100 first conversions are collected, as this is what we call the learning phase. And if the campaign is meeting your goals, consider raising the budget, because that will eventually get you much more users, and that's what you want to actually be aiming for to uncap and keep learning and speeding up the process. Now that we've showed what's worth doing in Google Ads, having a high budget, making sure you target actions to get those valuable users, and making sure you have the best practices in place to make sure all the solution works cohesively. What should you not do? Do not replace your top performing creatives. Keep those because they're performing quite well, but do refresh all the ones that are ranked with a low performance rate within the AdWords control panel. Do not make any changes to your bid or budget greater than 20% per day. And do not change your optimization goals. And do not make any drastic or frequent change to your geo targeting, basically. So within the first 2 weeks or within the first 100 conversions, you shouldn't make any of these changes, as that will offset the learning curve and you'll spoil anything you've built up till then. So wait 2 weeks, wait for the first 100 conversions to come in, and then do these changes that you deem are necessary. And now I think this is something a lot of developers wait for and usually ask about. So let's dive into it. Google Play is a big platform for many developers, and it's been a source of success and like a great opportunity for all types of developers, from bedroom to enterprise developers, to really scale and grow their businesses. And we've devised a few set of rules that we're going to be sharing in this presentation as well, that will really help you scale and make the best out of our platforms, in the sense where you'll understand how to really scale your app and organically get the uplift you need and the installs, so that you can grow when you don't have budgets, until you're at the scale where you can actually maintain paying campaigns and grow through that. So what would be our first pro tip in order to make the best out of Google Play? Use Android Vitals. What are the Android Vitals? like a quick overview on the 5 metrics that we deem are the most important and for which this will affect your Google Play ranking. It's stability of the app in terms of the crash rates, battery, rendering for the frames per second, startup time, and permissions. So if you want to really make the best and make the best out of your app and try to get the best possible rankings in Play Store, you're going to have to work on these 5 key metrics. But the beautiful thing here is that we've actually integrated a peer set benchmarking within the Android Vitals, which allows you to compare your app to a peer set, which is a group of other apps that are similar to you. So you can test who has the better stability and other metrics within the app, which accordingly will help you understand how you're likely to rank if you're better or worse. So this type of visibility is a great chance for any developer who's keen on getting better to really be able to measure this success. You'd be able to see existing benchmarks through the dashboard that's mentioned, and you'll be able to kind of see in which percentile you lie based on the peer set that you've chosen and the different benchmarks that you've input. So once you've done these developer-selected peer benchmarks, you can choose these similar apps to compare your Android Vitals against. And as you can see here in this example, you can see your crash rate versus peers, and you'll see if it's a better percentage or worse one. And you've selected here, for example, up to 12 apps, which I think is a very good number to really see where you lie within the chain and understand how much you can actually improve and rank better. Developer-selected peer benchmarks. We'll recommend an initial peer set in the beginning. However, at least eight apps in the peer set should be included, but no more than 12. And you can do this 3 times per calendar month, and one app from any other developer account. And make sure to tick the button here for using custom peer groups for your Android Vitals. So next pro tip to make sure that you make the best out of your campaigns. And this is an important one, as we might not take it for granted. We might take it for granted, but at scale, it makes a very big difference. 3 out of 10 phones have less than 1 gigabyte of internal free space. So size really does matter in terms of that. Having an app that can fit into any phone and not have problems with space will really make a difference for you in terms of how you're going to position yourself and gain new users. And the actual relative benchmark that we've kind of realized from our internal data is that 3 megabytes less in each app will lead to 1% higher installs. Now, that sounds a little bit low, but when we're talking about millions of installs, that could be a very big number, and that could really make the difference for you, especially for organic uplift. And you want to try to capture, you're gonna want to try to capture that difference, because it's really gonna go the distance for you. And how do you create a compelling store listing? Because at the end of the day, you're gonna want to make the store listing compelling enough for users to actually convert. Because once they see an ad, they're gonna get to the store. But if the store listing is not good, they might not convert in the best way possible, which you're ideally looking for to make the best out of your app. So we basically start with the title, icon, feature graphic, video trailer, screenshots, and all the descriptions and reviews, and having different languages and like accordance with the metadata policy. But what we're going to focus on for today is the title, the icon and the video trailer, because those are really like big indicators of success and could really push forward your listings capability and the success that you can have. So with regards to icons, you're going to have to really put an icon and not logos. Keep in mind the app name is already mentioned below the icon, so don't mention the app name within the icon. And this is like what we show basically here. We're in this example, number 1 versus number 2. You're going to have to follow number 2 in that sense. And you can have different iterations on that to really try to understand what's working well for you. And also give a video trailer. Of course, you've noticed some apps have a video trailer within their screenshots at first, and some don't. And hands down, the ones who do are the ones who get potentially featured when they have all the other metrics in place. And they're also the ones that are gonna get the most engagement and potentially conversion rate, because it's a way to show the moments of the app that clearly display the value of your product. So in the end, the best way to do this is to continue to improve the store listing and conversion rate by trying to really do these new global experiments as localized as possible and whenever applicable. Test the icon, test the graphics and order of the screenshots, test the feature graphic and promo video, put up to 3 variants whenever possible, and select the percentage review each variant, and then test it for default and non-localized assets. If you make sure to follow these recommendations, there's a very high chance that you're going to get a good uplift from an organic perspective. And that alone, when coupled with paid campaigns for valuable users, you're going to have an organic uplift within all of that setting and even grow even further. And ideally, that's the situation that you want to be in. And a lot of our clients have been there, and they've really talked about this success in a very positive way. So we look forward to having you as one of our new clients soon. And hopefully these insights are useful. And to sum up everything that we've presented today, it's really important to be present throughout the whole customer journey. That's really the heart of what we're trying to convey within all of this video and this training, is to make sure that your framework and how you approach campaigns and marketing is really in line with the customer journey. The 4 phases, if we go back through them, are readiness, launch, results, and scaling. And it's really about the solid foundations, because scalability in apps could be really huge, and they have a lot of potential, as we've seen from the numbers to 2020 with 130 billion or 40 billion new downloads. So it's really important to have very, very solid foundations and a data-backed mobile strategy. So how do we get a data-backed mobile strategy? Make sure you have Firebase integrated. And how do you make sure you have solid foundations? Make sure your organic standing is already good and you have an optimized Play Store listing. So these are number 1 and number 2. Optimize your Play Store listing to capture all the organic opportunities and make the best of the paid ones. Integrate Google Analytics for Firebase so that you can make sure you're measuring and collecting the data that you need to scale and model conversions. And use our best practices that we've shared with regards to designing creative assets and make sure they align with the image sizes, video sizes, and text narratives that we've shared. And in the end, once you have all of these together, it's super easy. You'll just be able to integrate all of that within Google Ads, set a bid, set a budget, upload the creatives, bid on the conversions from Firebase, and you'll be good to go. Then you just let the machine learning and AI adjust the bids for you and basically work within the campaign to make sure you get the best users. It will ramp up and down in the first 2 weeks, then it will stabilize, and ideally you'll have the CPA you need, and then you'll start to scale on your app journey and get the success that you should be getting, basically. And thank you for watching, and hope to see you with us soon.